Good morning. Hi, I'm Sherry Scott. I am founder and principal architect at Springhouse Architects, also founder of Springhouse Structures, which we just started this year. It's our building arm. And now Springhouse Collaborative, which is where you are. Springhouse Collaborative is a collaboration of me and my team and homeowners that are considering custom home, um, and anyone that is in the middle of a custom home project. Not necessarily Springhouse clients, but anyone that's thinking about this process and are a little bit aimless, don't know where to start, don't know which path to take. Come and join us here and ask questions, get answers. I'm wanting to help. Today we're talking about custom fun things that you can do in your home. It's one of the pleasures that we get to work on when we work full services with a client to work through a whole construction project. There are a couple of different areas that I consider fun custom things. One could be more of an art installation where we commission an artist to do a piece, and it is going to fit into the architecture. Like, we design the architecture so that there's a special place for this special art installation. And the other is more custom things in the actual architecture. And I'll go through a little bit of both. I know last week I was on Thursday, I ended this meeting. I was on my way to go see Mike Elsass, who is an artist in every sense of the word. He has a studio, I wrote it down, Front Street Studio, downtown Dayton. First of all, the setting is amazing. It's this huge warehouse complex, big total masonry brick buildings, huge warehouse windows that just flood all of the space with light. There are multiple artists in there. It's really an artist, it's an artist area. Excuse me. So several artists in all the buildings. He's up on the third floor. He has several rooms and he calls it painting. It's metal painting, but it's a little more than that. He does, I'm going to show you, I'm just so excited about having this. He gave me a gift for coming to his studio, and I don't know how well this translates on Facebook Live necessarily, but this is what he does. This is painted on metal. He uses a lot of different mediums. Some of it is paint, some of it is rust, some of it is sand. And then it gets an epoxy finish, it looks like, but I don't know how much you can see, but there's a lot of texture in here. There's a lot of movement of color and pigment and materials. This was the one I picked. He has so many, like every color palette you could imagine. So, and you probably can't see it on here, but I asked him to sign it for me. So he signed it for me, wrote the date that he created it. He's a very proud, as he should be, a proud artist, unapologetic for the work he does. And I have other pictures from the tour of his studio. I just was excited to be there and to meet him. And that's one of the treasures of my job, I think. So what I went to see him for, we have a current client that we are doing architectural services for, and she brought this idea. That happens a lot with these custom art installation pieces. The client has something in mind, an artist that they like, that they've been wanting to use for a long time, and they want to do something in their home, but they just don't know what. Our client came to us and she did know. We had designed this front entry, double doors. We were struggling a little bit if it was going to be full glass doors with a glass transom, which felt a little bit forced in the space, and I knew we kind of put a pin in it, saying we'll come back to that when we get to the door selection. So we got to the door selection, and I told Lori, I said, I really want these to be solid doors because we have glass on both sides that's fully transparent, totally private site, so that doesn't matter. But with the scheme of the house, I thought they should be solid. So solid doors. We ended up with double 2'8" by 10 feet tall solid doors. And if you've ever come through a 10-foot tall door, it's something special. It really is. It's the scale of it just feels different. And it's not right for every house. You have to be able to walk into the right area, right? It needs to be able to hold that 10-foot height from the inside and from the outside, spatially. And she was all for the 10-foot doors. So the technical side of that is it's very hard to do a wood door 10 feet tall because of warping. You need this door to seal and to keep the environment out. So we knew we were going to do a steel door, and I thought we would just paint a solid steel door. And Lori came to us and said, I know this artist, and he does steel painting, and he's amazing. And I at first I was like, I don't know, let me see. So she introduced me to him, and I went to his studio, and obviously I'm still gushing about him. So we're gonna make something work. Our next step will be to go in with the client and talk about color palette and give him his artist license to bring something to us. Our side, the architect side of it, we need to figure out how to make it work, make sure the doors still seal, how it's attached, how it's weather protected, what type of door we need to order on time to get it installed correctly. So there's a lot of work that goes through some of these art installations that you just think, oh, that's beautiful, but there's a lot of coordination and work that goes behind the scenes. That I love that part of my work. So that's one example. Another example we're doing currently are concrete countertops. That doesn't sound like a huge artist installation, but when you talk to these guys that do the concrete countertops, they are artists, and the way they pour it in, the way they cure it, the way they finish it, the glazes they put on it, it's all very custom, and you need to have some direction and know which way you want to go. You need to collaborate with them and work through all of the details. We have to work through the details of the weight of that, of the thickness of it, because everything's custom. What else did we work on? An office building we did recently. This is one of my all-time favorites. He has a pump company, and in this pump company, they obviously have warehouses and the factory where they put together some of the pieces for the pumps. And he was giving me a tour just as like, this is the business. I wanted to see the business and see what we were designing for. So we went through his warehouse, and I saw these amazing round, they were wood, they were from forever ago, round impellers. And if you've ever seen those, they're all different sizes depending on the pumps, but they were circular, and they all have different types of fins on them, which turns with the pump. And I didn't learn all of that, but I saw them and I loved them. And I just asked him, I'm like, can we use these somewhere? And he's like, yeah, that'd be super cool. So we ended up, I'll post a picture later in the comments here, but we ended up designing a welcome wall in their office, which was on a metal grid. And we took these impellers, probably 50 of them, and we started very sparse at the top. It was probably 10 feet tall. Started very sparse at the top, and it came down and it got thicker at the bottom, and we had the big Ruthman red sign on it with a water feature, a waterfall right under it. Turned out perfect, and it's something custom, and it's welcoming, and it speaks to who that who that company is and what they do, but in an artistic way and in a creative way. So that was great. And that was something that, we brought to the table, and collaborated with the client, asked him, he was an artist also, in his former life and in his mind in his current life. So that was a great collaboration, and it turned out great. Another thing we're doing right now is working with a really great landscaper, a landscape architect, Foreground Studios, if you want to look them up. We bring them in when the landscape is very important to our clients. And really everyone's on a different, everyone has different priorities. So when clients come to me and they say, well, we can finish the landscaping whenever, they just want kind of foundational plants, something low maintenance, that's fine. We can go one direction with that, which is much easier. That doesn't have to be a huge part of our design and our involvement. We can get people to do that. If they come to me and they say, landscaping is so important to me, I want something different, I want to wander through this place and have different vistas, and at that point I say, I am not a landscape architect, but I know an excellent one. So we introduce them and work together to communicate design intent and feeling, what we envision for the project, not necessarily actual plants or anything like that, but we communicate what we already, we have this history with the client by this point. We know what they're thinking and what we're heading toward. And so we help communicate that to the landscape architect. That's been a great association with them. And our clients are really happy when we bring other experts in. We don't act like we know everything, and I can't design absolutely everything, but when we can introduce another partner that way, it's a very successful project. Last thing we're working on currently is milling wood from the site. So you cannot do it with every tree that you see. If you take out one tree, you can't necessarily effectively mill it. If it's only this big, it needs to be a certain diameter. Again, I don't know all of those specifics, but I know who to bring in to answer those questions. So 2 different projects, we are milling wood from the site and using those in the architecture. On one project, we're using them, so they're already at the miller. They are being kiln dried, and then they'll be sawn into the pieces that we need. And we designed, at Springhouse, we designed the doors. We have huge 4 foot by 10 foot doors, double, on 2 sides of a shared living room. It's more than I can go into, but those doors then slide to close off and have a little bit of privacy in that living space. And those doors are going to be skinned in the wood that is harvested from the land that we cleared for the house. It has a more richness, more meaning, more, something to talk about when you're sitting at the dinner table and say, hey, these doors, they actually came from the land. That's been a great project. On another one, currently we're having wood milled for outdoor ceilings, so beadboard ceilings, and indoor interior beams. Those are great. I'm just going to touch on the architectural design. I'll probably come back to it at some point. I don't want to go too long today, but in the architectural design, I often say there's nothing wrong with production homes. There is absolutely nothing wrong with plans online. There's a little bit of work you need to do with plans online to get them to be usable. But what you're not going to get is a custom home, custom features that are made just for you. A couple of architectural design custom features other than floor plan. Of course, it's rooms and how they're connected and what you use them for. I think everyone kind of expects that from a custom design. But something else, I was just meeting with a potential client yesterday, and the lots, it's hard to find a super cool buildable lot around here right now. So they found two that they like, but they're facing the wrong direction. If you watched my video from last week about choosing the site, if you want a light filled house, and she came and she's like, I watched your video, and yes, I want a light filled house. So we looked at the lots that they have. All of them face north or west, which is nothing's wrong with that. Half the, a quarter of the homes in the world face west, and half of them west and north. Anyway, um, there are other solutions. There are architectural solutions. We can do a skylight. We can do a cupola. We can do lots of different things in the design when we know that priority up front. We can do different things in the design to bring light in and to flood it in that way. Another client in the past came, and their first priority, they loved their site. And he said, when I walk there, I just think I want to walk in my front door and have it feel like an amphitheater, so that I walk in and I can just see this site and see it almost like I'm seeing it raw, not necessarily from inside my house. So what we did is I designed this front door. You walk in, a beautiful red pivot door that you come into, and we elevated the foyer, and then it was just 2 or 3 steps down into the main living space of the house. The lot sloped down a lot, so we had some elevation change that we could work with. And it's an entire 2-story wall of windows right in front of you. So you come down into this kind of small enclosed entry piece, and then you walk in and it just opens up and you see this view, and it's amazing. I'll post the picture here too. Hidden offices, hidden rooms, those are always fun. Those are always something I like to get those into the architectural plans, because it's, if you, now everyone knows about hidden rooms, right? So if I go into a place and I see a space with molding around it and it's the size of a door, I'm like, oh, is that a hidden, bookcase, a hidden room back there? Of course it is. So it's in the architectural process. We like to design. Maybe it's a whole bookcase wall. Maybe it is something flanking on one side and another. So that, if you're going to do a hidden something, let's hide it. Let's take a minute and design it and figure it out. The last one I'm going to mention is one of my favorites. This client came to me. They wanted a custom home because they wanted the floor plan to be custom, and they just wanted control of the design. But she even said, I want a suburban pretty home. Like, I don't want something that stands out and something that yells at people and says, look at me. And she said, but we want it to be custom and we want it to be nice. So we were working through it. I went to visit their existing home, and in their existing home, they had these amazing antique radios in every room, spread out throughout the house. And that was interesting because you go and look at the different things and you see them in each room. But I asked them about that, and she's like, oh yeah, my husband collects these antique radios and I collect this china. So her china was in some hutch cabinets, china cabinets that she wanted to keep. They were also meaningful to her. So we designed the foyer. So you walk into the front door, and we designed a few architectural recesses so that her collection could live in those recesses, and she would see it all the time, and that people that would come to visit could see it too, and they could share it. And then the antique radio collection, it was a ranch home with a finished basement. So what I did is designed basically a museum quality display of the entire stair wall from 10 feet high all the way down to the basement floor. So 20-foot high wall with we designed the spacing of the shelves. We designed the structure of the shelves so it would look the way we wanted it to look. We designed the lighting so that we lit it from behind, more of like a museum quality type thing. And then the stairs came down right in front of it. So it faced the family room. So every single day they're living with this art wall that they have curated over their entire lives, collecting these antique radios. And the wall is just, we did it in white because all the antique radios are this warm, beautiful, aged wood, and they're lit perfectly with soft light. So it just is so warm and so inviting and so intriguing. And when you go down the stairs, you're really close to them. You can go down the stairs and you see each one going down. And that was, I'll post a picture of that too. That's one of my favorites. So this is, custom architectural pieces are fun and part of the magic of what we do when creating a home that you love. When it's important to share that with who you're designing with, to share something personal, some kind of priority. To define that up front is very important to the designer, to me as an architect. You're not going to get there with a draftsman who's creating permit sets to earn a living. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with going that route. And there's nothing wrong with the work that they do. You just have to know that you're not going to get to this custom level getting inexpensive plans. That's my little soapbox story for you. So invest in design. You really will. You will reap the rewards. So thank you very much for being here. Again, if you know anybody that's thinking about doing a custom home in the future, that's doing a custom home right now, invite them here. I want to share. And I would love for more people to come. They do not need to be in this area in the Dayton region. I think this is applicable to anyone that's doing a custom home anywhere. So please invite them so that I can share the things that we love to do. I don't know what I'm doing next week. If anyone has any ideas or you have any questions, please put them in the group, and maybe I'll just address one of your questions. I am working on two guests to come in. One is a tech guy who's going to talk about tech in your home and how everything's changed and everything's wireless and what you need to spend your money on. The second one, I'm trying to get the appliance guy in to answer all those questions. I haven't forgotten. Working on that. So if you have any questions, please post and ask, and I will see you next week. Bye.